You thought the breaking meant it was over. You thought the moment you shattered, it was God turning his back. But what if I told you that breaking wasn't rejection, it was redirection? Because sometimes God won't whisper, he'll shake. Sometimes he won't nudge, he'll break. Not to harm you, but to heal you. Not to shame you, but to shape you. Your breaking point was never meant to bury you. It was meant to build you. Because you can't go into new territory with old strength. You can't carry divine destiny with a flesh-made mindset. You see, when life breaks you, it removes the illusion. It strips the title, the expectations, the filters you've hidden behind, and it leaves you standing, just you and God, raw, exposed, but ready to receive, ready to transform, ready to evolve. Because broken doesn't mean useless. It means you're finally in a posture to be molded. And that kind of posture, that kind of surrender, that's where heaven meets earth in your story. So if you're at the edge, crying, questioning, collapsing, I came to tell you the breaking is not your breakdown, it's your breakthrough. Let the tears fall, let the pride break, let the old die. Because what God is birthing in you, it needed the breaking to breathe. Stand in the ashes if you must, but don't you dare believe it's over. From these ashes you rise again and again until the fire that tried to burn you becomes the fire that builds you. Would you like this in video script format or with slides? Breaking point is a crossroad, not a conclusion. It is the place in your journey where you meet the edge of what you thought you could handle. It's the intersection between everything you've carried and everything you're about to become. It doesn't mean you're finished. It means you're being invited into something deeper, something more refined, something more honest. It's a divine tension, a space where the soul stretches beyond logic and the spirit starts to recognize that growth rarely comes without pressure. Most people fear the breaking point because it feels like failure. It feels like weakness. It feels like the moment when all your plans crumble and you're left with fragments of dreams, pieces of hope, and questions that no one seems able to answer. But what if the breaking point isn't the end? What if it's the moment heaven marks as the beginning of a new chapter? A place where your character catches up with your calling. A moment where your mask falls and your real self stands up. We have been taught to see strength as the ability to hold it all together, to smile through the pain, to perform while you're bleeding. But true strength is not about endurance alone. It's about surrender. There is strength in knowing when to release what's been breaking you from the inside out. There is strength in realizing that the load you're carrying was never meant to be yours alone. Your breaking point often comes wrapped in chaos, but it is pregnant with clarity. It is the place where truth erupts, where distractions die, where your ears tune into the whisper of God because the noise of your own self-sufficiency has finally quieted. If you're standing at the edge, overwhelmed and unsure, I want you to stop and breathe. You are not lost. You're just in transition. You are not abandoned. You are being repositioned. A breaking point is a crossroad because it presents you with a choice. Will you shrink back into survival mode, or will you step into the unknown and trust that there's more for you beyond this pain? And this decision doesn't happen once. Sometimes you have to choose daily, moment by moment, to believe that the breaking is holy, that it is producing something eternal in you. You are being forged, not forgotten, molded, not misplaced. When a seed breaks in the ground, it looks like destruction to the untrained eye, but to the Creator, that breaking is necessary for growth. The shell must crack so that the life inside can reach for the light. You are no different. You've outgrown the shell that once protected you. Now the pressure you feel is the evidence that you were made for more. So instead of resisting the breaking, begin to lean into it. Let it teach you. Let it cleanse you. Let it lead you, because this crossroad is sacred. You may not have all the answers, but you are standing in the presence of transformation. The version of you that emerges from this won't just survive, it will thrive. But not because you had it all together. No, it'll be because you learned to let go when everything in you wanted to hold on. The breaking didn't destroy you. It brought you to your knees. And that's exactly where strength begins. The breaking point is not the end, it's the turning point. It's easy to assume that once we reach the edge of what we can handle, everything after that must be collapse or chaos. But what if the very edge is where destiny begins? Often, we're taught to avoid discomfort, to fear the moment when things fall apart. But life has a way of using the breaking to get our attention. When we're at our lowest, when the cracks begin to show and we feel like everything we've built is falling to pieces, that's when the truth becomes undeniable. You see, we often build our lives on ideas we inherited, expectations we absorbed, and identities shaped by survival, not by purpose. And so when life breaks us, it isn't always to destroy us. Sometimes it's to unearth what's real beneath the rubble. When you find yourself at the breaking point, everything you've clung to starts to lose its grip. You begin to see that strength isn't in holding on. It's in knowing when to let go. At that moment, you are not being punished. You are being invited into clarity. The breaking reveals what can no longer stay. It removes the distractions, the ego, the fear, and leaves you standing with only what matters. We don't talk enough about how sacred that space is. That moment when you feel like everything is ending is often the exact place where your next chapter is quietly taking root. It's a divine interruption, a moment where your trajectory shifts. God doesn't always send burning bushes and booming voices. Sometimes He sends silence and stillness in the aftermath of breaking. This is where you make a decision, not based on your comfort, but on your calling. Will you keep circling the same mountain, or will you trust the unfamiliar road ahead? Turning points don't look like milestones when they first happen. They look like grief, confusion, and disappointment. But in hindsight, you'll see they were doorways. You'll look back and realize that the worst day of your life was actually the day you were rerouted to destiny. So when you're at your breaking point, don't ask, why is this happening to me? Instead, ask, what is being made possible through this? You are not ending. You are emerging. You are not breaking down. You are breaking through. And everything ahead of you is worth what you're leaving behind. Pain is a language of transition. We often treat pain as a signal that something has gone wrong. But what if pain is actually speaking a truth that comfort cannot? What if your discomfort is trying to tell you that something inside you is shifting, evolving, becoming? Pain is not always punishment. More often, it is instruction, it is revelation. It is an inner alarm system alerting you to the fact that you've outgrown something, a mindset, a season, a relationship, a version of yourself. And in those moments of pain, when you can't explain what's wrong, but you know you can't stay where you are, that's transition. That's the bridge between who you were and who you are becoming. Pain speaks in whispers and waves. It shows up in your restlessness, in your tears, in the deep sighs you can't explain. And too often, we silence that voice because we're afraid of what it will tell us. But pain will not be ignored. The more you suppress it, the louder it becomes, until it's screaming through your body, your relationships, your choices. But if you listen early, if you lean in instead of pushing it away, pain can guide you. It can teach you how to heal, how to grow, how to release. Pain reveals places that still need attention. It tells the truth your words haven't formed yet. It shows you where you've been bleeding while smiling, where you've been functioning while fractured. And here's the truth: transition is messy. It doesn't come with neat timelines or clean emotions. It shows up in the middle of your routines and asks hard questions. It demands truth. It demands stillness. It demands surrender. But if you trust the process, if you let pain lead you to purpose instead of bitterness, then you will come out of transition not just changed, but transformed. The version of you that rises from that place won't be the one that entered. It will be wiser, deeper, and more rooted. Because pain, when processed in purpose, always births something greater. It is the labor before the life. And you, beloved, are not dying. You are being delivered. Pressure exposes hidden potential. We often assume that pressure is a sign that we're in the wrong place at the wrong time. That if life is pressing us, squeezing us, stretching us, then we must be doing something wrong. But pressure isn't always punishment. Sometimes pressure is preparation. It reveals what has been lying dormant within us, waiting for a reason to rise. Just like a diamond is formed through intense pressure and heat, your character, gifts, and purpose are often shaped the same way. You may not feel it in the moment, but that tension you're under is pulling something greater out of you. It's drawing out discipline, resilience, creativity, and faith. When everything is going smoothly, we tend to coast. But it's when pressure comes, when the walls close in, when the expectations rise, when the comfort zone collapses, that we are forced to dig deeper and tap into what we didn't even know we had. Pressure doesn't just show you what's in you, it reveals what's no longer serving you. It will confront your habits, challenge your identity, and stretch your capacity. You'll start to notice which parts of your life can't survive the intensity, and that's not a failure, that's feedback. It's showing you what has expired, what needs to be released. Pressure will shift your perspective, rearrange your priorities, and awaken your potential. It doesn't feel good, but it does good work. You begin to understand that what you thought was breaking you is actually building you. That pressure is a divine tool, not a weapon. It's a spotlight exposing your ability to persevere, to strategize, to pray, to push through with power and grace. So when pressure shows up, don't retreat, respond. Ask yourself, what is this moment trying to produce in me? Because there is treasure buried within the tension. You are being refined, not rejected, empowered, not punished. Pressure is not your enemy. It is your mirror. And what it's showing you is that there is more inside you than you ever imagined. Isolation doesn't mean abandonment. It means elevation. There are seasons in life when it feels like you've been left behind. When the people you thought would walk with you suddenly disappear. When the support system you counted on becomes silent. And in that silence, in that aloneness, you begin to question your value, your direction, and your identity. But let me tell you something sacred about isolation. It is often God's way of positioning you for something higher. When He wants to elevate you, He removes the noise. He strips away the opinions, the distractions, and the dependencies so that you can hear His voice more clearly. Isolation isn't a punishment, it's a purification. It's where He detoxes you from people pleasing, breaks off unhealthy attachments, and clarifies your vision. It is in the lonely places where character is formed, where your prayer life deepens, where your discernment sharpens. You begin to understand that elevation isn't just about platform, it's about preparation. God will take you into the wilderness before He sends you to the stage. He'll hide you before He highlights you, because some growth requires solitude. Some healing requires stillness, and some lessons cannot be learned in the crowd. They are whispered in the secret place. So if you're feeling isolated, don't rush to fill the space. Don't reach back for what God already removed. Lean into the moment. Let Him reveal what needs to be revealed. Let Him restore your confidence, your voice, your strength. Because when you come out of this season, you won't be who you were before. You'll be elevated, not just in status, but in spirit. You'll be more rooted, more focused, more powerful. And you'll understand that isolation was not the evidence of abandonment. It was the environment of transformation. Breaking forces identity realignment. When life breaks you, it doesn't just affect your circumstances, it shakes your sense of self. You start to question who you really are apart from the roles you've played, the titles you've held, and the expectations others have placed on you. Breaking comes for the masks. It disrupts the versions of you that were built out of survival instead of purpose. It strips away the performance and demands the authentic. And while that process feels disorienting, it is necessary. Because who you thought you had to be is not who you're called to become. There comes a point when you realize that the identity you built to fit in, to be accepted, to be safe, is no longer sustainable. The pressure, the pain, the loss, it's all shaking loose the false self so the real you can emerge. Breaking demands that you redefine your worth, not by what you do, but by who you are. It forces you to confront your core beliefs. Do you still believe you're valuable even when you're vulnerable? Do you still see yourself as chosen even when you feel broken? That's the work of identity realignment. It pulls you out of the old mindset and invites you into a new vision, a vision of yourself that is healed, whole, and honest. A vision that doesn't rely on external validation, but flows from internal truth. And that truth is this: you were never meant to live your life performing. You were meant to live from a place of deep authenticity and divine alignment. The breaking shows you what matters. It brings you face to face with your true self. And when that realignment happens, everything shifts. You stop chasing approval. You stop shrinking to fit in. You start standing in purpose. You start moving with clarity. And the life you build from that place, that's the life that lasts. That's the life that speaks. That's the life that honors who you truly are. Restoration begins at the ruins. It doesn't begin at the mountaintop. It doesn't begin when everything is in place, when the plan is perfect, or when your heart is healed. Restoration starts right in the middle of what feels like devastation, right in the aftermath of your breaking point, when the pieces are scattered and you can't even recognize what your life used to be. It's in that raw, vulnerable space where God begins to do his deepest work, because ruins don't scare him, they invite him. He's not intimidated by the mess. In fact, it's often in the mess where miracles are born. When everything you thought you needed is stripped away, he begins to show you what truly matters. He doesn't rebuild you back to what you were. He restores you into something greater than what you imagined. That's the beauty of restoration. It's not about returning to normal. It's about redefining what's possible. When you're standing in ruins, it's tempting to mourn what was lost instead of perceiving what's being rebuilt. But make no mistake, there is glory in the rubble, purpose in the pain, wisdom in the wreckage. God doesn't just restore circumstances. He restores vision, identity, strength, and hope. He breathes on dry bones. He builds cathedrals from ashes. But first, he allows you to see that what you had was not your end all. That sometimes the things we thought were blessings were actually limitations. And when he lets them fall, it's not to leave you empty. It's to make room for overflow. Don't rush past the ruins. Sit with them. Honor what was, but don't idolize it. Let yourself grieve. But don't pitch your tent there, because as sure as the sun rises, restoration is coming. And not the kind that puts everything back the same, but the kind that multiplies, that renews you on the inside. That gives you beauty for ashes and strength for sorrow. The ruins are not your final chapter. They are the foundation for your greatest rise. Breaking forces identity realignment. When your world falls apart, it shakes more than your circumstances. It rattles your sense of who you are. It challenges the labels you've worn, the expectations you've carried, and the roles you've played. You begin to see that some of the you've been presenting to the world wasn't really you. It was who you had to be to survive, to fit in, to be accepted. But breaking won't let you hide anymore. It pulls off the mask. It silences the performance. It strips down the false identities and exposes the raw, authentic version of who you truly are. And that can be terrifying, because when you've spent your life living through filters, stepping into your real self feels like stepping into the unknown. But that's where real freedom lies. God will use your breaking not to diminish you, but to define you. Not by what you've done or how people see you, but by how he sees you. When your old identity starts to fall apart, it's because he's calling you into a new one rooted in truth, not trauma, in purpose, not performance. And that process takes time. It takes courage to walk away from what used to validate you, to release identities that were comfortable but counterfeit, to stop being who they wanted and start being who you are. But when you do, you'll realize the breaking didn't destroy you. It revealed you. You were never meant to carry all those labels. You were never created to keep shrinking just to make others comfortable. You were born for more. So let the breaking shift you. Let it stretch you. Let it realign you. Because what's emerging on the other side is stronger, wiser, and more aligned with your divine assignment. The breaking point is not the end. It's the turning point. In our human reasoning, we often view the breaking point as the limit, the place where we've failed, collapsed, or fallen too far. But in God's kingdom, the breaking point is often the place where the next level is introduced. It is the moment where our strength ends and His begins. It's where the hustle fades and surrender rises. The turning point doesn't always come with loud fanfare. Sometimes it shows up in quiet surrender, in the tears you cry when no one's watching, in the whispered prayer that says, God, I can't do this without you. That is not weakness. That's alignment. That's when heaven leans in. You may feel like life has fallen apart, but really, it's falling into place. The very thing that's overwhelming you might be the birthplace of a new season. Because the turning point is always disguised as a breaking moment, and it makes you choose. Will you stay stuck in survival, or will you shift into surrender? Will you keep rehearsing the pain, or will you start embracing the process? It is in this sacred tension that transformation begins. Your turning point is not about immediate answers. It's about new awareness, new direction, a new posture of trust. It's about finally releasing the need to control and realizing that some endings are actually upgrades in disguise. And though you may not see the full picture yet, the shift has already begun. You're not backtracking, you're turning. And what's on the other side of this shift will be more than you ever dared to imagine. Because you're not at your end, you're at your becoming. Pain is a language of transition. Pain is not just something we feel, it's something that speaks. It communicates things that words often can't. It tells us where healing is needed, where boundaries were crossed, and where growth is trying to take place. And yet, we've been conditioned to silence pain, to numb it, to avoid it. But pain is a messenger, and if you listen, you'll discover that it's pointing you toward change. Transition is rarely quiet. It's filled with discomfort, tension, uncertainty. But that's because you're being moved from one level of existence to another, from who you were to who you're becoming, and pain becomes the bridge, the tension in your spirit, the unrest in your mind, the atching in your heart. All of it is signaling a shift. You're not broken, you're birthing, and birthing always comes with pain. It's not just physical, it's emotional, spiritual, and mental. But the pain is not for nothing. It's producing something. It's expanding you. It's teaching you what can stay and what must go. And as uncomfortable as it is, pain has a purpose to alert, to cleanse, and to realign. The goal isn't to stay in pain, but to understand what it's trying to reveal. Because pain always precedes transformation. You cannot step into a new version of yourself without shedding the old. And that shedding is never painless, but it is powerful. So instead of running from pain, lean in, let it teach you, let it sharpen you, let it prepare you, because this is not the end, it's a transition. And on the other side of this pain is purpose that will change everything. Pressure exposes hidden potential. Most of us pray for growth, pray for elevation, pray for new seasons. But when pressure comes, we start doubting the very prayers we once cried out. We assume that pressure means we're off track, but in reality, pressure is often a sign that you're right where you're supposed to be. You see, pressure doesn't come to those who are standing still. Pressure comes to those who are carrying something heavy inside, something that must be birthed, revealed, or released. Without pressure, seeds stay dormant. Without pressure, diamonds remain carbon. Without pressure, your true potential stays locked inside you. When life starts pressing you on every side, don't despise it. Recognize that something greater is being called forth from you. Your strength is being tested, but it's also being stretched. Your faith is being tested, but it's also being deepened. The areas where you feel squeezed are the areas where expansion is trying to take place. Your pressure clarifies your priorities. It makes you let go of distractions. It shows you who's really for you and who was only convenient for the journey. It teaches you to depend less on people's approval and more on God's affirmation. The tighter life gets, the clearer your vision must become. Pressure demands focus, it demands faith, it demands flexibility. You can either resist the pressure and risk stagnation, or you can embrace the pressure and grow into the next dimension of your destiny. And let me tell you, everything you're praying for, every breakthrough, every open door, every divine opportunity is hidden behind pressure. It's not to kill you, it's to qualify you. It's making you strong enough to hold the blessing. Because if you cannot survive the pressure, you cannot steward the promise. So next time you feel the squeeze, instead of shrinking back, stand tall. Remind yourself, I am being refined, not ruined. I am being prepared, not punished. And everything that pressure is pulling out of me will be used for the life I'm called to live. Isolation doesn't mean abandonment, it means elevation. When you find yourself in a season where your phone stops ringing, where the invitations dry up, where the crowds thin out, don't automatically assume you've been forgotten. Isolation often precedes revelation. God pulls you away not because he's finished with you, but because he's about to do something new in you. The quieter your surroundings become, the louder his voice can get. In isolation, your heart is purified, your motives are tested, and your endurance is strengthened. It's in isolation where you discover that your anointing isn't tied to applause. Your purpose isn't validated by popularity. Your calling isn't diminished by quiet seasons. Elevation requires separation. Before God can elevate you publicly, he will process you privately. He will allow a stripping away, a pruning, a cutting off, not to punish you, but to protect the promise he has placed in you. Some levels of growth can only happen away from the familiar, away from the comfortable, away from the noise. Because if you are not careful, you'll become addicted to validation and disconnected from your true assignment. In isolation, God reintroduces you to yourself. He shows you who you are apart from titles, apart from roles, apart from what others expect. And when you emerge from that season, you'll walk different. You'll talk different. You'll no longer chase what's beneath you because you'll understand the weight of what's within you. So don't despise your isolation. Embrace it. It's a sign that God is about to elevate you in ways that eyes haven't seen and ears haven't heard. The breaking point is not the end, it's the turning point. The breaking point feels like the worst moment of your life. It feels like failure, betrayal, exhaustion, and despair rolled into one. But what you need to know is that the breaking is not your burial, it's your birthing. It's the place where God interrupts the cycle, where he steps into the story you were trying to write for yourself and says, I have something better. We often pray for God to change our situation, not realizing that sometimes he allows situations to break us so that we will finally change. Breaking is a blessing in disguise. It's heaven's way of calling time on what cannot go with you into your next.